before explaining why this limp dick impersonation of Blairism with zero charisma is a crying failure and could lead to leftists, vulnerable people and marginalised communities being rounded up, I wanted to take a moment for some positivity and wave my finger at the deceivers, fraudsters and true believers. Yes, I'm talking to you, you uncultured slags. Everyone that had a hand in installing and making Sir Keir Starmer Prime Minister. It's time to come to the front and admit Keir hates everybody to the left of him. And to contextualise that for the boomers, Keir hates everyone to the left of Margaret Thatcher. Yes, you heard correctly. The current government is no further left than Maggie's Conservative administration. Margaret loved apartheid South Africa. Keir is obsessed with apartheid Israel. Maggie clamped down on protests and Keir said,
"You betcha."
On his watch, peaceful protesters have been arrested and jailed. On his watch, the leading figures of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign and the Stop the War movement have been arrested and charged.
The man lies more than Boris Johnson, but gets way less sex. Which makes you question, what is he doing this all for? What does he want the record books to say about him? At least Boris Johnson just wanted to be Prime Minister. It doesn't feel like Keir Starmer even wants to govern the country. Since Keir is friendly with the good people in the Italian government, someone from over there should pull him to one side and quietly tell him, "You are failing!" And this is why.
On behalf of His Majesty's Government and the United Kingdom, I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump.
There you go, acting like a hoe. There you go, acting like a hoe. Acting like a hoe, acting like a hoe.
Keir won the 2024 general election with 33.7% of the vote, which was lower than Jeremy Corbyn in 2017 in terms of numbers of votes received and percentage of the total votes cast. In fact, more people voted for Jeremy in 2019, but given the massive stupidity of our electoral system, that gave Keir 411 seats in Parliament. Essentially, the man is a god king with the ability to do whatever he wants, which is to check in notes, be closer to Ukraine, make old people cold again, and tell disabled people to stop being lazy and get to work. What the f***? It's like Keir heard everybody screaming out for cheaper bus fares and he responded with, "The best I can do is sign a 100-year deal with Ukraine." Also, I have spoken a million times in the past about how David Cameron and Norman Osborn policies led to thousands of disabled people dying. Keir saw that and said,
"Job's not finished. Job finished? I don't think so."
It would be quicker and more humane to just send death squads to the 10 million pensioners that have now lost their winter fuel payments. All that to save £1.4 billion, the yearly combined expenditure of Rachel's Power Bob and Keir's Bellend parting. Anyway, oozing loser energy has put Keir's approval ratings at a historic low. I'm aware there is a book claiming that Keir doesn't run shit in his government, which is funny for all of Starmer's biggest detractors.
Occasionally they even spoke of their leader as if he were a useful idiot. Said one, referring to the driverless Docklands Light Railway that wound its way through East London, "Keir's not driving the train. He thinks he's driving the train, but we've sat him at the front of the DLR." That's his staff.
But who cares when the net result is still the same? The majority of vulnerable people are being harmed. I'm not ashamed to admit this. Actually, it eats at my soul every single day. But I truly believe that Keir Starmer would have been the digestible form of socialism Labour needed to win an election. I even ushered for Jeremy Corbyn to step aside after the defeat in 2019. What a f***ing idiot I was. I just wish there were clues Starmer wasn't a socialist and his principles more aligned with fascism. I don't know, like the time he was Director of Public Prosecutions.
He claims to be a human rights lawyer, but that is a claim that requires examination. He was actually a human rights advisor to the Northern Ireland Police Force, which is a notoriously reactionary police force. He was then Director of Public Prosecutions. Now, you don't become Director of Public Prosecutions in this country unless you are an absolutely safe, law and order pair of hands for the establishment.
Apart from cozying up with Italians that can trace their party's lineage straight back to Benito Mussolini, this numpty will cross the Parliament floor to have an intimate chat with Nigel Farage, all while hunting leftists like a bloodhound. It feels like Keir watched the movie Inglourious Bastards.
Each and every man under my command owes me 100 Nazi scalps.
And hit the reverse card. Thank God Keir has been pushing socialists to the margins, because we all know people trying to make life on this tiny rock a tiny bit better for everyone are the real threat. And it would be naive to think racism ever went away in this country. The National Front were active in the 70s and 80s. Stephen Lawrence was murdered in the early 90s, and the Metropolitan Police were found to be institutionally racist in that same decade. 9/11 reintroduced aggressive anti-Muslim bigotry, and Brexit allowed people to acknowledge liberalism didn't change hearts and minds for anybody. It just suppressed their more spicy beliefs. In summer 2024, we witnessed fascist pogroms targeting asylum seekers and everyone non-white. And Keir just moved on like it was a simple argument over football results. I can't imagine nonchalantly giving eye contact to a fascist that was burning my car last summer. Why do I feel like the reaction to all of the chaos just wasn't good enough? I've seen more emotional responses to the TV show The Traitors.
Get out of the way.
Why do you think the migrants should be rounded up, put in camps and shot if they refuse to leave? Mr. Watkins?
Got a question, Glenn. Sorry, Jay. What's your problem with black people?
Both the BBC and ITV managed to carry out stings on racist, fascist thugs. Well done to them. Thank God they exposed the nationally shamed working class fascists when there are literal Nazi billionaires in the American government who have purchased a social media platform and turned it into a Nazi development program. And I'm not infantilizing or taking away the autonomy of these idiots. They clearly have problems, and I'm going to start with education and critical thinking skills. And I don't want to give Natalie any credit here. In fact, she really thought she was cooking here, but she definitely burnt the food. No one should let her near the stove again, but she almost touched on a point without realizing it. These clips do feel like the establishment is waving and saying, "Look everyone, these people are racist. Boo them. The bad racists have been caught. You can now sleep safe at night." But what thought has been given to the factors that drove these people into these ideologies in the first place? Everyone can agree Tommy Robinson is a dip. But what about the many open racists that have been elected to Parliament, whether they be Tory, Labour or Reform? These undercover stings conveniently let the establishment with power to change everything off the hook. But I guess it's easier to dunk on these intellectual giants.
Basically, there's a snitch in this group chat. How the would ITV know my name Glenn and where the find me?
Yeah, no Sherlock. My re-education camp cannot stop this type of stupid, but it will definitely erase this kind of public behaviour.
We conquered India.
Gave it back to us.
We conquered India. We didn't want it. We gave it back to you. Did we not? Tell me. Did we give India back to India?
No, you didn't give India back.
India belonged to England, and we gave it back. We didn't want it.
Whether Keir is the cause, symptom, or just a coincidence, there has never been a better time in history to be a member of the global majority and hate everyone else from the global majority. The opportunities are endless and the sky's the limit. America has shown us this. Admittedly not as shiny, but Britain still has the upper middle class, part-time Tory leader, full-time anchor baby, Kemi Badenoch, a person that doesn't believe the government should protect the marginalised and vulnerable, believes white privilege is a made-up term, listed Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher as heroes, called maternity leave excessive before walking back that statement during the same day, expressed strong disdain for trans people domestically and internationally, including children, declared we should mention the good things about the British Empire if we talk about the bad stuff, sees China as a mysterious challenge from the Far East, described as pro-Israel by the Times of Israel, argued immigrants should only be allowed into Britain if they think like her. I say all of this just to segue into this video.
England's not in what 10-20 years time is not going to be Anglo-Saxon Caucasian heritage anymore. It's going to be people who look like me, and that's not going to be a good thing.
Why isn't it a good thing?
Because they're going to be bringing in an inferior culture.
Like, this has to be some kind of mental illness, right? An offshoot of the imposter syndrome, maybe. I'm going to need a psychiatrist to come forward and diagnose this. If pandering converted into cash, this man would be richer than the Nazi saluting, space Karen with daddy issues, Elon Musk. Recently, I decided to distance myself from openly using terms such as coon, Uncle Tom, or house Negro, but you can imagine the words I'm screaming in my head right now.
What would you do to stop the small boats?
I'd militarise it. I'd tell the military nobody lands on the beach. Get the military to stop it, and I'm sure they could.
How do you think they go about stopping it, though?
No boat lands on the beach. No boats would land on the...
Does that mean sinking them?
Whatever's necessary.
Even if there's like kids, women on the small boats, they should still be sunk?
No boats would land on the beach.
But thinking this guy is a coconut would be generous when he essentially advocated for sinking boats filled with women, children, and men. Never forget the men. Men are not disposable. And I'm talking to you men out there. This beacon of light has fully brought into an ideology that ranks English culture, whatever that happens to be, above everything else in the world. A culture that has refused to recognize the horrors of the British Empire, because if it did, we wouldn't have a royal family, an institution that participated, reinforced, and benefited from said cruel enterprise. What does this all have to do with Keir Starmer? Not only is Keir trying to conserve the current principles, beliefs and systems, he would rather expend energy vanquishing leftists who actually advocate progression.
The only thing you can really say that Starmer is very, very good at is hunting down the left. In fact, it's slightly hard not to see the calling in of John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn for a police interview as the extension of internal Labour Party factional fighting by means of police powers.
Starmer is even barely willing to champion policies spearheaded by neocon Anthony Blair. Keir was judged to be a safe pair of hands for the country. Translation: he will freeze the Overton window until a rabid right-winger is elected again to slide the window further rightwards. And if you are a fan of foreshadowing, look no further than the German elections, where the far right made epic gains to become the second largest party. But at least Die Linke got Berlin, yeah? Because we all know, being the last liberal stronghold in a sea of fascism always works. I don't think all hope is lost. I still believe community cohesion and exchange of culture is the best remedy to a divided population. We witness firsthand what happens when communities come together. They create mutual aid group chats. These same mutual aid group chats were a vital tool during the COVID pandemic. And I'm still a part of mutual aid WhatsApp groups today. Oh no, am I becoming an anarchist? So actively look for local community events where you get to see and speak to your neighbours. Unless they smashed up your car or tried to burn down a hotel full of refugees last summer. If Keir Starmer doesn't at least give us cheaper public transport, affordable housing, or make us feel like we have more money in our pockets, Kemi or Nigel are going to electric slide into number 10 Downing Street because Keir has shown that these characters are acceptable options that should be engaged with. If you are a fan of elections and believe things can only be changed through voting, FYI, that wasn't the way women obtained the right to vote. It's time to field, campaign and vote for candidates you can trust. I'm not a fan of George Galloway.
Good pussycat, yes. Good pussycat.
In fact, he has only ever been right on Iraq and Palestine, making a broke clock correct twice a day. But if Boy George knows how to win local elections against heavily funded big party machines, there is something to be studied there. What the f***? Never mind. There's a lot we can learn from Jeremy Corbyn's independent win against the Labour Party machine last year. So let's just study that.
It's my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
There you go, acting like a hoe. There you go, acting like a hoe. Acting like a hoe, acting like a hoe.